so we have it. So you both kind of mentioned that same thing. Where do I start with sellers? And that's a legitimate question. When you're on a team that provides leads, you don't really have to think about starting with where you start with buyers, because ideally buyers are coming to you, right? They register, they're looking. Ideally, they are willing to communicate once you reach out to them. We know that's a numbers game. That's one thing. Sellers, kind of a different breed. There aren't people registering on websites to the same degree that are thinking about selling their home. And there's a couple of reasons why. First and foremost, and this gets kind of really quickly to the point of the best way to get seller leads is, well, you know, most sellers already have an agent because the agent helped them buy the house, right? So if they had a really good relationship, and maybe not even a really good relationship, if they had if they still have a relationship with that agent, there's a good chance that they're going to talk to that agent first about listing their house. And that is part of, understanding the maturation of working in the real estate business. The majority of your listing leads are going to come from two places: your past clients who are downsizing, upsizing, moving out of the area, or sphere of influence and referrals, right? Going to come from people who know what you do and they're going to send it to you, or people you've already worked with. The other aspect of that is something that Ellen touched on. It's, what can I do to get out there and be visible and attract opportunities? And there are several things. It just comes down to your willingness to do it. Anybody have any ideas what those might be?
Advertising, obviously. Buyers, whatnot.
Certainly, putting yourself
Emails.
out is a huge thing,
Yeah.
right? And there's a lot of ways to do it. So let's kind of walk through this and talk about a couple of these bullet points, and hopefully it'll spur some additional discussion. First of all, when you're selling or helping a seller, you got to understand their perspective. What's their motivation? Okay. This isn't necessarily about finding it, but it's about when you have that conversation with somebody who's thinking about it, how you meet them at where they are. Okay. Because people will talk about selling, but just like with buyers, maybe they're not ready yet. So how do you provide them some knowledge to set them up to get them in the right place to think about selling and taking that next step? We have the seller strategy session, just like we have the buyer strategy session, right? You guys all have access to it. It's right in your listing loop templates. It's right in .loop for you to access anytime. The thing is, what are you going to do with it once you have access to it and get in front of people? Just like working with buyers is providing value. It's helping people understand what their options are. More than anything, it's how are we going to put the best foot forward for your property, right? To make your property the most attractive. And how am I going to go above and beyond to represent you? Am I just going to put a sign in the yard and take some pictures with my phone and slap it online? Or are we going to go above and beyond and really help people understand what we're going to do different? Which is why we do small things like professional pictures is a must, right? Professional measurements is a must. Floor plan is a must. We always do the Matterport. I think that's a must because there's nothing that, kind of makes me smirk a little bit more than clicking on a virtual tour and then it's a slideshow of the pictures that are already on the listing, right? That's not a virtual tour. It's a slideshow of the pictures that are already on the listing. So I want people to feel like they can walk through the house, especially this day and age, right? You need to feel like you know where things are in relation to each other inside the house before you even get there, because floor plan is important to people. Space is so important to people. We have the tools to be able to convey that from their home. So why wouldn't we do that, right? It's not only a disservice to our seller for not putting our best foot forward, but it's cutting the opportunities short for potential buyers, right? Because they don't see the value in coming to see the property because they don't understand it fully. So doing that and helping them understand things like, well, we reverse prospect in our database. We're not just waiting for someone to bring a buyer, right? That's why when we talk in our meetings, hey, go reverse prospect my property that just got listed. Who do you have that's been looking at property similar to this? Let's provide amazing value to these people instead of waiting for them to bring a property to us that they're interested in. Hey, look, this is a 95% match score based on what you've been looking at. Have you looked at this one yet? This might be a really good fit for you. And, showing the properties. Hey, you're looking at similar properties. Let me suggest this one to you too. Too many agents only show what clients send to them, and they don't offer any options. Part of being a good listing agent is knowing that you've got a team of other agents that you work with who are actively trying to sell that listing. That's one thing that we pride ourselves on. It's like Brandon said in our meeting yesterday, Eli and Sheila, if you remember, hey, when I take a listing, I promise these people that we're going to do open houses to get foot traffic in here. That's part of the value we provide. We're doing that intentionally. Now, yes, that's a great thing for our buyer agents, people who are working for clients to work with, but we also want to get foot traffic in the door because we want people to see this property. And again, we're not just putting a sign in the yard and saying, hey, buyer, please come along. You know what I mean? So making sure that you can articulate that and also understand their perspective again. What are their motivations for selling? Understanding how emotional it is when you're selling a house, completely different mindset than when you're buying. Let's be honest. When you're buying, you're excited. Oh, I'm going to find this house that I've been dreaming about. I've been thinking about this kitchen. I've been thinking about this layout. I've been thinking about this backyard. When you're selling, you're thinking, I want the most I can get for my house. And my house is great. And people are going to love my house because I've made great design choices. And people are going to love these drapes that I've had for 15 years. And people are going to love this wallpaper that I've had for 10 years. And people are going to love this tile that was in the house when I bought the house. Right? And that's a fine line to walk because when you go and you meet with them in their house, and trust me, I've been here, you got to be careful because you want to make suggestions to put the best foot forward. But at the same time, you don't want to hurt their feelings. So it's a very sensitive conversation. And if you even working with buyers, talking to the listing agent, how sensitive sellers can be about their homes. Oh, I've taken great care of this house. Oh my gosh. Well, then why is water standing in the crawl space? Right? Like we've talked about before, and like we tell our buyers, a lot of sellers don't have home inspections done before they sell their house, right? So they think they know what's going on with the house, but then we get the inspection report back, and do they really? Not necessarily. So that's part of kind of setting the stage, setting the expectation for things that we need to talk about and look at as people are thinking about running up and listing a house. Typically, this is a conversation that happens over a period of time, and it's not just, hey, I need to sell my house, come list it. Right? People have like a goal. They know that they're moving because of their job or school or kids or work or whatever. So we've got a date to aim for. So we've got a run up time to prepare things, right? And that's part of setting the expectation. Not that different than with a buyer who says, oh, we're going to be ready in 3 months. Okay, these are the steps. This is the blueprint. This is the roadmap to get you where you want to be, right? It's kind of reverse engineering that conversation for your sellers and getting in front of them. But again, how do we attract sellers? Our second bullet point here, or our second section here, is an effective online presence. Do people know that you're out there? Are you a secret agent? And I don't mean like James Bond. I mean, do people know that you work in real estate? Are you hitting them over the head with it? Not in an annoying way, but a couple of times a week, are you providing value to your sphere about what you do and your chosen career? Are you letting people know what's going on in the market? Are you sharing market updates? Are you sharing other opportunities that your team has available? Are you giving them ideas about what's going on with interest rates and why things are where they are? Are you sharing about the process and how to understand and approach buying or selling a home? All of this is so important. And I've stressed it with you guys. You've got to be visible, because if you're a secret agent, nobody's going to find you. If you're out there, I guarantee you people are watching it. You might not interact with them. They might not like your posts, but they're watching it. And at some point, someone is going to come to you that you haven't talked to in a long time, because they've seen you're putting your presence out there. And it's not just necessarily about your activity. It's about, hey, look what our team has going on. Check out this open house that my teammate is doing. Check out this listing that my teammate just listed. All of those things. That's why it's such a great thing when we grow the team, because it brings more opportunities to everyone. More opportunities for open houses, more opportunities for sign calls, more opportunities for folks clicking the listing ad on Facebook and other places that generate leads, right? And all of these are really good selling points when you have a conversation with somebody about selling their house. All the other things we're doing, other than putting a sign in the yard and taking pictures, to say, hey, we're trying to get it in front of as many eyeballs as possible, right? Because it's got to get in front of their eyes before it's going to get in front of their feet, right? They got to like what they see on the screen before they're going to want to go see it in person. Networking, building relationships, cultivating relationships with other professionals in the industry. Introduce yourself to builders. You know, I know that we've done it, especially in the Triangle. Brandon has provided the opportunities through some of his contacts, doing open houses for builders, right? Who don't have enough on-site agents to host open houses. Look for those opportunities. If no matter where you are, you go show a home in an open or in a new construction neighborhood, go by the sales center, make sure the on-site agents know who you are, give them your card. They like to work with other agents because it makes their job easier. They're not making any more money if somebody comes in there unrepresented, I guarantee you. That money's going to the builder, not the agent. So get to know those agents, befriend them. They might call you if they get someone that comes in unrepresented. It certainly happens. Ask them, hey, can I do an open house in your neighborhood? Right? Get to know those folks. That will give you an opportunity. And maybe, especially with small builders, more custom builders, may give you the opportunity to list a spec home if they decide to build one. But you have to have those conversations and make those contacts with them. Of course, that's expanding through people you know. It goes without saying that, and I've said this from day one with everybody as part of your training, you know, you have to let people know what you do everywhere you go, and especially everywhere you spend money. You know, your hairdresser, your dry cleaner, your church, the liquor store, the grocery store, wherever it is that you spend the most of the time. Connor, I see you laughing, so make sure you drop that card off at the till when you check out there at the ABC. That's fine. Make sure that
Zach, the ABC store.
make sure that they know what you do, right? I just ordered new name tags for everybody, so I should have those next week, because we hadn't done a great job with that. Wear those when you go out so people see it and they ask you about it and they know who you are, right? Make sure you know who you are. Start to build your brand and your visibility. That will start conversations with people about what's going on. And of course, your existing client base, you know, like we mentioned before, that's going to always be the biggest driver of listings for any real estate agent, people you've worked with before, but not the only place. Power of marketing and presentation. I'm going to share this. I realize I'm just reading through it. I want you guys to kind of see it as we're talking about it. So maybe you guys might want to make some notes. Of course, I'll share this after. But power marketing presentation. We've got a marketing plan as far as when we sit down and meet with folks face to face. But again, what is your marketing plan to make people aware of you. Now, a really solid tactic for a lot of real estate agents is own your neighborhood, right? Mark, we even talked about this week. You've had conversations even before you've really started in real estate with some of your neighbors about, they're wondering about what's going on in the marketplace. They're thinking about selling. I know Brandon is doing the same thing. He lives in a huge neighborhood where they built last year or 2 years ago in Chapel Hill. And I mean, there's 1,000 houses on his street. He's out there talking to people, letting them know what he does. And when you tell people what you do, they're naturally going to ask you what's going on with the market? How's the market? How's business? What's going on with the rates? Where are prices going? You guys got, if you want the business, you got to be out there and have those conversations, and put yourself out there. Meet your neighbors. Talk to them about it. Make sure they know what you do. This is where it starts. This is like guerrilla warfare as far as real estate goes. You're in the trenches. You're talking to people. You're putting yourself out there. You're not waiting for it to come to you. That's what's going to happen for you to attract seller leads.
And I think what you said before, Doug, the part about, wearing merchandise, wearing name tag, but wearing a hat, wearing a shirt, wherever you go, because people will read it and then they'll say, oh, you're in real estate. And it opens the door to have these conversations so much easier. I used to tell my agents when they went to their kids' games, have an umbrella that's branded. That's and right. Bring that bigger the better, like a big golf one. That's and right. Once when I was an agent, once I ran out on the field, it was the baseball game and it was starting to drizzle. I offered to the umpire, let me put my umbrella up for you so you can see the game, right? Sure, because everyone in the stand saw that the MetLife umbrella. So merchandise is really important to wear.
I have recently started communications with a new product company to provide stuff for us. So we're going to see a lot more of that coming down the pipeline soon.
Awesome.
That's something we used to do really well, and I kind of gotten away from it because things went sideways with the company that we were working with previously. It's coming back, so hang tight. I'm going to get you guys some stuff soon.
Excellent. Thanks.
But yes, being visible, so it's easy for people to see it. I've got, everybody gets a North Face fleece when they hit 6 transactions, right? When you do that, wear that thing everywhere. I wear mine all the time, and it's a couple years old now, but man, I wear the heck out of it. And Amanda's better about it than I am. She wears hers more than I do. She's great marketing, and she looks a lot better than I do. So I'm glad that she's wearing it versus me. I might scare people off wearing it, Anyways, I digress. Put yourself out there, be invisible, marketing in a lot of different ways. A lot of folks will, talking about your neighborhoods, pick a neighborhood to farm. We have options. You want to do mailers to a neighborhood, we can help you with that. We have the resources to set you up with that. And it's tax deductible. If you want to do it and do mailers, you can write it off. You can write off the expense for doing it. It's a business expense. I can show you how to do that. We have the options to do that, whether it's your neighborhood or you pick a neighborhood near you, or you just pick a neighborhood that you really like. You can do mailers. The thing about those are you have to be consistent. We've had people that try it, but they'll do it once or twice. That's not enough. I'm talking monthly or quarterly minimum. If you're going to do that, you have to commit to that investment long term. It can't be a short term investment. It can't be a once or twice thing. You really got to dig in, and you really have to plan. And it's like anything we do, it's kind of like your ideal weekly schedule. If you're going to plan a marketing approach like this, before you decide to design the postcard or even who you're going to use, you need to sketch out what your plan of attack is going to be. When, why, what's the message, what's the subsequent message? What am I trying to convey to people? Whether it's days on market in the neighborhood, where prices are headed in the neighborhood, any of that stuff. That's the value that people are looking for. Now, I see a lot of mailers too that I get for the beach, right? Because we've got a place down in Surf City. So I'm constantly getting stuff from Better Homes and Gardens, or that used to be Treasure, or especially Sotheby's, because this guy owns the island and sells like half the properties on the island. He's relentless with marketing. I get a postcard constantly, and he's like, I sold $100 million in properties this year, or whatever, or Sotheby's did. We can do the same thing. You know, we're selling tens of millions of dollars of property every year. We can brand it for you to your neighborhood if that's what you want to do. The opportunities are there. Let's just talk about it. Any other thoughts on any of that? Eli, I just saw your note. I'm glad I got to the screen share. Thanks for your patience with that.
I didn't want to cut off your flow. You had it. You struck a rhythm, and I'm not going to interrupt it.
Feel free to cut me off if I'm not giving you what you need. So thanks for that. I appreciate that.
Just a real quick question regarding the postcards. Do
Yes.
you have that in place now, or is it something you're working on? Do we have like 2 or 3 formatted already, or this is something new that we're going to build?
We have a couple of different ways that we could do it. Primarily, I think we can do it through Morgan's organization, because almost every lender has an option for you to do that, and they have a way to pull addresses for a specific neighborhood or a radius or something like that. So we can sidebar with her about that if that's something that you want to talk about doing.
That'd be great. I just started doing it, but I made up the postcards, used our logo, etc. But it's not what I want. It was stock, basically.
They usually have templates that we can just drop our logo in, drop your headshot in, drop our information in. And then if it's a past listing that you had in a neighborhood, that's a great opportunity for mailing. When you close a property in a neighborhood, hey, just closed, I can do it for you, something like that. Our team just closed, we can do it for you. I'm your agent local to the neighborhood, something like that. It doesn't have to be your listing. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
It's all about what
Do
you
you feel like they actually, like, mailings actually work? Because, like, I know for me, most of the time, I don't even look at them. When I get all of them, I just throw them straight in the trash.
Yeah. I think it depends on who your audience is, Connor, and I think that's a legitimate thing. And I am not a huge fan of paper marketing, because for me, the return on investment is so hard to judge. It's why I'm not a fan of billboards. You know, unless somebody drives by the billboard and say, hey, I called you or I stopped at your office because I saw the billboard, I have no idea what my return on investment is.
I have a comment.
If I'm buying Google pay-per-click leads, I can say, well, I spent this much and this many leads converted into that many transactions. Right now, April, before I get to you, being visible is a huge thing. And building your brand and being visible is a huge thing. You just have to understand that you're not necessarily going to know exactly what the payoff is in the same way that you will for other things. April, go ahead, please.
My only comment was, I don't know if you guys can see this. I get this every month from the agent in my neighborhood who does a great job. And the reason that I keep it in my job, it's about having resources for you guys when you need them. And she, on the back of her like one pager, she has neighborhood resources on it. And it's pet sitters, pet boarding, landscaping, painting, HVAC, electrical, all that stuff. I literally keep that because it, you know, for not only my use, but also for my job. So it's actual useful information that I can keep. And then on the flip side, it has, you know, the lender that she teams with, how many houses were sold in our specific neighborhood. I mean, the normal on the other side, but the reason I keep it is because it has something useful for me as a homeowner in my neighborhood. So just a thought. But when she first started doing it, whether or not this is actually legal, she used to just put them on the mailboxes. She would walk around with her dog and put them on the mailboxes. Now I get it in the mail with postage on it. So just some thoughts there. If you do decide to do it, I don't know that it should just be a postcard. I think it should have some useful information that, you know, they may keep, you know, so.
Yeah. And I think there's got to be strategy around it. So Connor, it's absolutely great point, because most direct mail, it's like a 0.02 return, right? But if it's strategy, a layered approach. So for me, I have this neighborhood around me in Hampstead that I'm really concentrating on. I'm at the golf course. I'm at the ball field. I've got a big sign up there. I've got mailers in those 2 neighborhoods that border Kiwanis Park. And that's all I'm concentrating on. So eventually, maybe 2 or 3 years from now, they'll be, oh yeah, oh, I know who she is, right? But it's building towards that recognition.
Well, and
Okay.
talking about doing that marketing, a couple of comments to add to that. The genius part about the agent in April's neighborhood is she's not really making it about real estate.
Mm-hmm.
She's just making it about home ownership and how I can make your life easier by giving you recommendations for stuff that you need anyways. You know, who hasn't asked for a recommendation for a yard guy or a cleaner or, you know, a plumber or something like that? How can you provide that? Now, I will tell you, this is a really quick, easy thing. The website is full of things like that that you can share if you're just looking to put stuff on social media. Our resources page, we have a trusted providers page. We've got people there for the Triangle and the Coast, right? Plumbers, surveyors, you know, speaker companies, you know, AC people, any of that. That's a quick share. Hey, are you looking for somebody to help you around your house? Check out our trusted provider list. It's right here. We've worked with these people. Our clients have worked with these people. That's a quick share. You didn't have to do anything but add some context to it, right? Check out our page. We put this here because these are people we trust, that people we've used have trust. If you need somebody, use it as a resource. Same thing with our blog. And there's like 150 posts on the blog. And some of that information is more relevant than others because, you know, stuff like rates and whatnot change. But it's still great information that you don't have to recreate. We haven't talked about Chat GPT in a while, but we're going to talk about it again because it's not to replace what you do, it's to supplement what you do and help you do it easier. You know, if you struggle with wording for posts or something like that, give it a prompt and let it help you wordsmith what you're trying to say. There's no shame in that. I use it for my listing descriptions. It's great because it's much better with synonyms than I am. Instead of using great, I get something like awesome. Well, that's not great either, but hopefully you know what I mean, right? You know, I don't just use awesome 5 times in the listing remarks. And I'm a communications major, so sorry, but that was a long time ago. But hopefully I'm making a point. There's nothing wrong with using resources to help you be better, right? Your competition is doing it. You should do it too. Use the resources around you. Don't feel like you have to do everything on your own. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. All right, let's keep moving through some of this stuff. Differentiating your value proposition. What do we talk about constantly? We've got 2 jobs: provide value and build relationships, right? The relationship part comes easier for some people than others because you're just naturally effervescent, love to talk to people. People are drawn to you. You're drawn to people, whatever. It's harder for other people. If that piece is harder for you, then focus on the value. What value do you bring to the table for your folks? Some of that is what we talked about before. The value that the team provides, which is why you chose to be part of the team, because you get this value by association, right? Bringing other buyers to the table. The opportunity to do open houses, get more eyes on the property, using our database to reach out to people. Folks, we've got like 40,000 people in our database at this point. That's why we reverse prospect, because we only need one person to buy the house, right? That's a great value add. Brandon and I had a great discussion yesterday about some additional things he's added to his listing presentation to really incorporate a lot of market data. And it's really about, because of the market we're in now. And I will tell you, this stuff is fantastic that he's adding. And you can do it for your buyers too. So I'm a little all over the place, but he's sharing data like, this is what the average interest rate people who bought in your neighborhood a year ago and 6 months were getting, or 6 months ago were getting. And the data he showed me, he's like, okay, I'm trying to set the expectations for these people. Obviously, we want to get you the most we can for your property, but people are on average going to pay a point higher in interest rate than they were this time a year ago. And you have to understand that is going to impact what people are going to pay for your home. Or if nothing else, the market for the people who are able to pay this for your home. But again, we have to lead the horse to the water to understand that. We can't just assume, and we can't just say, well, you know, rates are higher than they were a year ago. You have to show people. And the reason I love data is because it takes the onus off of us. Don't get mad at me. I'm the messenger. It's the data. Look at the data. The data tells us what's going to happen in the marketplace, not my gut. My gut is for telling you what could happen, what I've experienced in the past, how the process could play out, what hiccups or hurdles we might experience and have to overcome. The data is about the data. And that's about what other people are looking at. A big thing when you're talking with sellers, and everybody wants to get the most for their house, right? But it's about setting those expectations and using the data to set the expectations. Not, well, what do you think? Well, it's really not what I think. It's kind of what the data is showing us, right? And being able to share that data and articulate what the data says. What's our mission? Come on, somebody give me the quick version. What's our mission? This is important, folks. You should be articulating it with every client that you meet with, because other agents don't have a mission. And if they do, they aren't articulating it. This is how you provide value and stand out. My job, my mission is to give you the guidance and knowledge you need to feel really good about the decision you're making, comfortable and confident with this decision. It's not to convince you to buy a house. It's not to convince you to sell your house. My job is to give you the information and help you disseminate that information so you make an informed decision that you feel really, really good about. That's our mission. And make sure you tell people that. Only thing I'm selling is me. Somebody else is going to sell that house if I don't. What I'm selling is the value that I provide. But you have to be able to articulate that to folks. And it starts at that initial conversation, that first face-to-face meeting. Hey, I want you to know 2 things. This is my job. It's my full-time career. I take it really seriously. It helps me support my family. But it's also my job because I enjoy helping people make life-changing decisions. And that's what you're going to do if you're about to spend a couple of $100,000. So let me show you how I'm going to explain the process to you and help you disseminate all of this information so you feel really comfortable and confident about this decision you're going to make, whether that's buying or selling. Because it's a couple $100,000 decision either way, right? Be upfront and tell people that. They will be more inclined to take you seriously. And honestly, they're going to go, wow, I've never had an agent talk to me like this before. Because what do most agents do? Oh, you want to see a house? Okay, I'll show you the house. Oh, you want to buy the house? Oh, you don't? Okay, well, let me know next time you want to see a house. Right? So make sure that you're providing that value. That's buyers or sellers. Okay, back to our list over here. We talked about the data. The data is so important. I am a firm believer. I tell people, look, it's about the data. It's not about my opinion. I'll help you disseminate the data. If you want my opinion, I'll tell you. But at the end of the day, we focus our decision-making on data because it's there for that reason, to work through, to take advantage of the data, right? The last thing, expectations. Expectations. And maybe this shouldn't be the last thing on the list, but I think it's the last thing on the list because it's maybe the most important thing, setting expectations when it comes to what they need to do to get the home ready to list, what an appropriate price point is going to be, and do we have a follow-up approach if they don't get that in a specific time frame, right? The days on market for similar properties, what happens once we start to bump up against that if we don't have the traction? that we need. And sometimes you're not going to get it. It's not going to make sense. I'm speaking from experience. You've got a house, it's in good enough shape, location's fine, it's priced well for the market based on what the comps say, just not a right fit for everybody because of other things that are happening. And then sometimes you get a house that's like, there's no way in hell anybody's going to jump on this. And a week later, not even you're under contract. You don't always know. So we have to set expectations the best we can. And sometimes we're surprised, and then sometimes we have to adjust. The big thing is to always have a backup plan when you're going to list a home. So your initial listing appointment should go something like this. And I've done listing presentations with some of you. We'll do them again in person to help you walk through them. They're kind of a reverse engineer of the buyer process. But first and foremost, you get to the home, what do? You hadn't met these folks before. You've only connected online. What do? What are you going to say?
Introduce yourself, tell your story, appeal to what they're, you know that they are proud of their house. So you want to connect with them as quickly as possible, point out a couple of things that they've done that are, oh, that looks amazing. I haven't seen something like that before. Fantastic job.
100%, you want to do that. That's perfect, Ellen. I like to get to the tour right away. Thanks for having me. Oh man, this looks great. I love your curb appeal. Before we sit down and talk, give me the tour. Tell me what you've done. Tell me what you're thinking about doing. You got any questions about what you think you should do before you list? Point it out to me. Let's talk about it while we're walking around. And then it's, we've got in the seller packet, which you share with them, there's a list of things from our photographer to prep it for pictures, right? That's a great handy little list for folks. You can go over it with them. If nothing else, provide it to them. It's kind of a thing, depersonalize, declutter, take down all the pictures of your kids, maybe not all of them. You can leave up some stuff, but I mean, you don't need the 80 pictures of your kids on the table or whatever. Let's back it down a notch. Maybe take down that picture of you, water skiing in Malibu or whatever that you've got above your fireplace.
Right.
Replace it with, a nice landscape, whatever. But, depersonalize, just giving them ideas. Obviously, you want to speak really highly to the things that are going to be selling points, and especially any improvements they've made. And that can be a roof, an HVAC. It could also be updating the master bath or redoing the kitchen, something like that, because we're going to want to highlight those things in the listing remarks, right? But then what should they do versus what should they not do other than decluttering? Hey, do you recommend painting? Hey, is the carpet coming up in a room or something? Should you get that fixed? We want to put our best foot forward. We want this thing to look as turnkey as possible, or it's going to affect our list price. We're going to have to list it somewhat under the market value because people are going to come in and immediately start seeing dollar signs that they're going to have to spend after closing. So decide which one you want to do. And some people will say, look, I don't want to do anything. I got to get out of here as quick as possible. Let's just price it based on those things and get out. Or no, I want top dollar. Okay, well, if you want top dollar, you got to do some work. And then give people homework. And then after you walk around and do that, and you get your list and you can sit down and revisit exactly what they're going to do. Then you go through the seller strategy session, just like the buyer strategy session, walk them through what we do, explain the process, set those expectations based on sharing the comps so they understand what's going on in and around them with similar homes and what's happening in the marketplace, and then what the process looks like. Okay, we could go coming soon for 30 days if you want to get the word out there so people know that the property's coming. We get a sign in the yard, says coming soon. We can get it in MLS. People will see it's coming soon while you're doing your punch list before we get pictures and measurements, all of those things. We've gotten away from that because in our markets now, those coming soon days count towards days on market, which I'm not a fan of, but we don't have any control over. So, in most cases now, we're not going to do coming soon. We're going to tell them, all right, you've got 2 weeks to get all this stuff done. And then I'm going to have the pictures and measurement scheduled. So you need to be ready by X day, or give me the day that you're going to be ready by. I've got Sheila in stereo now. This is wild. I love it. Visual stereo. You're all good, Sheila. I'm just glad you're with us. So you know what I'm talking about? Setting those expectations and giving people homework. Too much in real estate, we don't tell people what to do when they come to us because we're the experts. We ask them what they want to do. You need to be telling people what to do. That's why you're there. You're there to draw the roadmap. You're there to make the blueprint. You're there to show them the path. You're there to set the dates and show them what the time frame looks like. That's what they're counting on you to do. Are you doing that? Especially with listings, you have to do it. Okay, when do you want it on the market? 1st of November. Okay, well, guess what? We've got a little over 2 weeks. And it's going to take probably 2 or 3 days to get the pictures back. So we can backdate it that far, right? How much time do you need to paint the trim? Probably need a week to get my painter in here. Okay, back it up another week. Now we're at about 5 days. All right, in those other 5 days, can you get all this crap packed up and out of here so it looks like you have closet space? So the living room and the bonus room aren't full of toys? Can you clean the carpet so it doesn't smell like your pet's in here? So people don't turn around before they even walk through the foyer? You know, those are the things that you have to set. You have to set that specific time frame for people. And then once you do that, you give them the homework. You tell them what their responsibilities are while you're doing your stuff on the other end. And then you confirm the photographer, you confirm the measurements, and then you make sure that they're ready. And then once they are, boom, 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 we hit the ground running. We get the stuff back. We tee it up to go active on a Thursday or Friday. And ideally, we can do an open house that weekend. And in the good old days, when things sold in 2 days, it'd be under contract Sunday night or Monday morning. And there's no reason that can't still happen if you position the thing right in the marketplace. The difficult conversation to have with sellers going back is, more than anything, it's going to come down to price. I'm always going to come prepared with comps, and you should too, especially for a listing. I mean, we talk about having comps with buyers. So if you don't think you don't need them with buyers, you definitely need them with sellers. You should have them with any client that you meet with. And why? Why? What's the one word why you should always have comps?
Justify your value, like, because they, most of the time, I think they're going to probably think it's worth more, right? And justifies the value, but it also shows your expertise and knowledge. You're not just picking a number out of the air. This is reality. These are the numbers. This is what the houses are going for today.
Ellen, that was a lot more than one word, but you made an excellent point, and I love it. No, that's great. The word I'm thinking of, though, is expectations. Because you want to have a chance to set expectations and back up why that should be the expectation. You know, because especially when you work with sellers, and people think working with sellers are easy. It's easy in one regard because you basically only meet them one time, right? Versus a buyer, you might meet 4 or 5, 6 times how many houses you're showing, right? It's different in that regard, but it's a whole nother mind space that we're playing in with sellers, and that's what makes it different. I always want, with buyers, I want to give them the price first. I want to set the expectation based on the comps before they have a chance to come in, because what are buyers going to be inclined to do? Offer more or less?
Less.
100%, right? So you want to be prepared to set that expectation based on what? Data. Same thing with sellers, but I want the seller to blink first, because then I can manage the expectation. Okay. Because if a seller comes in high, then I can say, actually, based on the data, let me show you what comparable homes to yours have sold for recently and how long they've stayed on the market. And then if they come in low, you're like, you know what? Let me show you this data because I think that's completely doable. Actually, I think we might be able to do more than that. And you see how you're able to craft and steer the conversation versus letting it dictate where you're able to go. you're able to take control. And what do I always talk about? Who do we want to be in control of the conversation in the situation? We do. And why? Not because we're controlling, but because we're the expert. That's why we're there, right? Assume that leadership role. That's why they've invited you into the conversation, right?
Do you ever bring, Doug, in your back pocket, something that wasn't priced right in the neighborhood, in the area, and show them, not just tell them, hey,
Yeah.
we could put it on for higher, but this is the result. It's going to sit for X amount, and you might even end up with less money than what I'm comping today.
I love to show a home
Great, yeah.
that's been sitting on the market for double the amount of days on market than everything else in the neighborhood.
Okay.
And usually you can tell them why. Because this is $20 per square foot over everything else, and there's no difference in the property. And you know, I will tell you, especially during COVID, maybe not so much now, but it is a tactic. Agents will convince clients to slightly underlist their property because then it's a deal to buyers that are looking, and then you end up in multiple offers. I'm not a huge fan of playing that game, but I am a fan of listing at market value instead of saying, well, if we don't get it, we can always reduce. Well, you're not going to get it because nothing in your neighborhood is selling in less than 2 weeks. So if you overprice it, I can guarantee you're not going to get the overpriced value. Now, there's always an exception because of different things happening, but you'll also get the seller that says, well, I added these plantation shutters and that cost me $5,000. Isn't that $5,000 more? My house should be $5,000 more than the house down the street with the same floor plan. No. I mean, somebody might pay that if they really like plantation shutters, but it's not going to appraise for more because of that. And how do you carefully have that conversation too, right? Oh, it looks lovely, but let me show you how buyer agents are going to talk to their clients about your house when they show it. And they're going to run comps like this. And they're going to base it on price per square foot. I think it's really important to be able to explain to sellers, and here's the huge benefit of working with buyers and sellers, is you know what buyers are talking about when they're out looking at properties. You know what they're looking for. And you know what data they're going to look at when they go to make a decision about how to put together an offer for a house, right? And being able to articulate that to your sellers is a huge value point. I don't get, okay, I get it. It's fine. There are companies out there that you only work with buyers or you only work with sellers. And it's like, for some reason, you graduate from working with the buyers to, oh, now I'm super important and now I can work with sellers. Why wouldn't you want to be able to work with both and know both sides of the industry? Why wouldn't you want to be able to talk to your buyers about what sellers are thinking? Why wouldn't you want to be able to talk to your sellers about what buyers are thinking? That's a huge value add to know what's going on in another headspace in the marketplace, right? And that's a thing to sell too. We could have this conversation about working with sellers forever. Hopefully this has given you a little bit of mindset into the conversations you have with them when you get in front of them and understanding setting expectations, and also a little insight about how to present yourself and get in front of more potential sellers to get the opportunity to have those conversations. And we can talk more as a group or one-on-one about, you know, farming a neighborhood, doing some really specific marketing to areas you want to do that. We can talk about that. Another thing that I've done with members of the team over the year, and this doesn't apply to everybody, but, you know, you've got an event coming up or something that you want to co-sponsor, we can do that. We can brand it the Ocean Air Realty and Ellen. You know, I've done with Janine countless times. We co-sponsor her kids' sports teams, and the Ocean Air Realty and Janine are on their uniforms. Be the soccer mom out there that everybody knows is the realtor on the team, right? And it doesn't just have to be kids sports. It could be your yoga class or your cult or whatever it is, wherever you spend your times. Whatever it is that you do, you know, you can be the realtor for that group, right? Embrace it and go with it, right?
My snake cult.
Exactly. Your snake handler cult, Mark. That's perfect. They need houses, right? They might want a bigger yard. They might not need a bigger yard, whatever. You know, we like to have fun. You should be able to have fun with what we do. But at the end of the day, it's about helping people, and it's understanding the best way to do that. And there are a lot of ways to help people at the very bare minimum of what we do. Again, it's about building those relationships. It's about having that empathy and understanding why people are motivated to do what they're doing. And it's about providing, unmatched value that they don't get from other people, because they're just happy to show up, open the door, and then if they're not ready to make a decision, they're not ready to stick with them. If you want to stick in real estate and make it a career, you have to be dedicated to the long haul of real estate, not short-term real estate. And it's like I tell people, when those hots fall out of the sky that are ready to buy now or sell now, that can't be what gets you to your goal. That's what gets you past your goal. What helps you achieve your goals is the day-to-day commitment to putting in the effort, to making the calls, making the follow-up, putting yourself out there, doing the mailings, dropping the cards off, telling people what you do, and building those relationships. That's how you build a pipeline of business. That's how you avoid the ups and downs in the industry. And it's never been more important in the 9 years that I've been in the industry than it is right now to be able to commit to do that and show up and do it every day. And the people who do show up and do it every day, we'll still be talking about real estate a year from now. The people who don't commit to doing that, those people won't be talking about real estate a year from now. It's just the fact of the matter. Like I said, I'm happy to keep this conversation going on, but we're at about our hour time frame. Any questions? Comment, Eli.
I have two quick questions. When would you recommend a seller get a home inspection, and kind of the parameters where you would feel it's necessary? And then the second question is around having established pricing schedules, if there's
yes,
the need for price drops.
Absolutely. So we used to actually have a formal document that was in the loops. I kind of got away from that, but I think it's definitely a discussion that you want to have and something that you want to kind of map out. And maybe you do it on paper when you meet with them, and then you follow up with an email to kind of document it. Hey, we're agreeing to list at X for 2 weeks. And then based on feedback or amount of showings, we're going to agree to reduce to X. And, some people are going to say also, well, I need to sell by Z because I'm buying another house, or I'm getting out of town and I don't want to pay rent and mortgage, or 2 mortgages or something like that. So it's going to be specific. There's no catch-all answer, but there is a catch-all approach. And it's okay, what's our end goal, and what's that time frame look like? And again, let's backdate it. And yeah, if we're going to list at a certain point, we need to be on the same page. And it's really important that we're on the same page, especially if we're not agreeing with what the comps say, that we have a plan to adjust in a given time frame. And why? And not just to adjust, but lack of showings, or feedback that says it's overpriced, or feedback about stuff that needs to be done that we talked about that you didn't want to do, any of those things, right? Good question, Eli. Being prepared for that is huge.
What about home inspection?
The home inspection part,
front end thing.
Is, in my experience, rarely done. If you go into a property and you can see pretty quickly that there are some issues, I'd recommend it. And this is why, this is the benefit of doing it. You can ask folks, hey, you had a home inspection done recently? You get in your crawl space often? You get up in your attic often? No, I don't. No, I haven't. Well, this is why it might be a good idea to do this. You don't want to get under contract and then find out that you've got a serious issue going on. So we could go ahead and get ahead of that, getting our inspector in here, find out if there's anything big or small going on, and then you can go ahead and address it, and we can add it to the listing and say, hey, we had an inspection done. We already took care of these issues. Now, people are still free to have their own inspection done, of course, but that's being very proactive. In a market like we are today, that might be a much better idea than 2 years ago, when people were buying shit that was falling down because they were just happy somebody would take their $50K over offer price. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great proactive way. I think it's a great way to provide value to your folks. It's not that dissimilar from, you know, a really outstanding property, maybe at a higher price point that's really hard to comp. To say, hey, let's get an appraisal done. And then we have some data to justify that price because the comps aren't giving us much. You have a really unique property. Why don't we get a second opinion of the value? And then we have something to back that value up when we list it. You know what I mean?
Doug, that goes to my question for you. So like, say you have a house in a neighborhood and none of the other houses have a garage on it,
Yeah.
or like none of them have a pool. How do you kind of comp that if it has a large feature like that that's not at any other house in the neighborhood?
So those are opportunities to maybe go outside of the neighborhood to see if you can find similar properties outside of the neighborhood and how they're priced. Of course, you don't want to go too far because that's going to impact value as well. You know, there's not like a standard guide out there for like a garage is worth $10,000, a pool is worth $50,000, but there are things similar to that that can kind of give you an idea of that. What I would say is when you get in a situation like that, that's what the team is for. You know, let's use meeting of the minds to help figure that out and get a couple of people to look at it because it will happen.
Right.
I take the toughest properties we ever deal with are beach properties because by and large, the neighborhoods aren't the same. It's not like they're subdivisions. It's not the same builders, not the same plans. The lots are all over the place. It's different. So that makes it not as easy. That's why it's good to come together. And those are instances also where I've recommended appraisals too.
Okay.
Good question. Thank you for asking that. Anybody have anything else? Sheila, are you sitting on your front porch? Did Randy kick you out of the house?
I'm sitting in the back. He's in a Zoom meeting as well. And they talk loud. So
That's great. I'm just picking with you. Well, I hope this was helpful for everybody. I hope you got some value out of it and kind of gave you some insight. I know, you know, most of you guys aren't at the point where we're knocking on the listings door yet, but you're going to get there. And to be able to address this stuff and get out ahead of it and have some sort of frame of mind around how it works will hopefully put you in a better position to be successful when you get to that position to have those conversations. So I hope it helped you.
Appreciate it, Doug.
You guys
Thank you,
got
Doug.
it. I hope you all have a great Friday and weekend. And if I can do anything, I'll be right here. Just holler.
Doug, I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
call you.
Glasses are giving, honey, giving.
What'd you say, Connor? I'm
I
sorry.
said, Sheila, those glasses are giving.
Thank
I
you.
love them.
Thank you.
Hey,
Doug, I'm about to call you.
Okay, I'll be right here.
If you're okay.
Y'all have a great day. Thanks so
Hey.
much for the participation in the
everybody.
combo. Bye.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.